But before tomorrow's news, let's go to tonight's headlines with Sophia Wensler.
Good evening. These are your headlines at 11 o'clock. Ukraine will ask NATO for membership next week, according to a letter seen by Reuters news agency. The letter reflects Ukraine's renewed push to secure an invitation to join NATO, which is part of a victory plan outlined last month by President Volodymyr Zelensky to end the war triggered by Russia's 2022 invasion. Meanwhile, in another interview tonight, President Zelensky said that he was willing to cede territory to Russia to end the war. The Ukrainian president said for the first time that his country could give up land temporarily in exchange for a NATO umbrella over the territory Ukraine still holds. And some breaking news. Exit polls suggest Sinn Féin and Fine Gael are neck and neck to be the most popular party following Ireland's election. The exit poll suggests Sinn Féin have picked up 21.1% of the vote, with Fine Gael picking up 21% and Fianna Fáil on 19.5%. The poll has a margin of error of 1.4%. Opponents of assisted dying are vowing to fight on after Ken Ledbetter's bill passed its first Commons hurdle today. The vote, which followed 4.5 hours of debate, saw 330 MPs in favour, with 275 opposed.
The ayes to the right, 330. The noes to the left, 275. The ayes have it, and look!
Details show the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, was among those who voted in favour of the bill. Legislation would allow terminally ill adults to end their lives with the approval of 2 doctors and a High Court judge. While the bill has sparked division, several stages remain before the bill becomes law, and a number of MPs indicated they could still vote against it if safeguards in the legislation were not strengthened. The Met Police has apologised to victims of the Westminster so-called honey trap scandal after it accidentally sent an email which named all of them. The force also said it was referring itself to data watchdog, the Information Commissioner, over the breach. Police launched a probe after flirtatious messages were sent by someone calling themselves Charlie or Abby to as many as 20 people, including MPs, staffers and political journalists. And Greg Wallace has been dropped as an ambassador of a charity after stepping down from MasterChef amid allegations of inappropriate sexual comments over 17 years. Last night, the TV presenter thanked fans for their support after 13 people, including broadcaster Kirsty Walk, made claims accusing him of using sexualised language on MasterChef in 2011. Ambitious about autism has now announced it is no longer working with the 60-year-old TV host in light of recent allegations. Production company Benija UK says it's launching an external review, with Wallace fully cooperating during the investigation. His lawyers insist the claims are entirely false. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's time for Headliners.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello and welcome to Headliners, your first look at Saturday's top stories with 3 comedians. Before we delve into the front pages, let's have a quick taste of what Lewis and Nick will have to work with on Saturday's front pages. The Daily Telegraph has Zelensky, I'll give up territory for peace. The Daily Mirror has MPs back assisted dying. The Daily Mail has MPs vote for a leap into the unknown. The Express, now future generations will be spared ordeals we suffer. And the iWeekend has assisted dying set to become legal within 3 years after historic vote. The Daily Star has The Gross Grocer. I think that's about Greg Wallace. OK. So let's start with the Express, please, Lewis.
OK. Hi there, Cressida. Good to see you.
I like you said, please. You're just hoping he will start with the Express.
You know what she called me? I'm not going to even say what she called me on the thing. I thought, was it like close to scamp or something? My favourite...
Scamp? That's a term of endearment.
I heard something else.
Oh, right. I see what you were mouthing at.
Oh, OK.
No, I didn't understand that right.
So you meant scamp? Oh, OK.
Yes, you're a cheeky scamp.
No, you know what it is? It's because I'm getting so much hostility from other people people on the program, so I'm not going.
Don't point at me. They'll say it's me when you look at me.
Well, it has been you in the past. Everybody.
What does the Daily Express have on the front cover, Lewis?
There you go. Now the future generations will be spared ordeals we suffer. What is the ordeal? The ordeal is dying. If you want to, and this is what the issue is. Thanks to our three-year campaign, this is the Daily Express. They should be totally against this assisted dying thing. It's basically murder. When somebody else is helping you die, when someone else is helping you die.
Well, so we've had the first vote today, and we've had 330 MPs in favour, 275 saying no. So it's not.
Yes.
It's not a runaway win, but it's healthy.
It's healthy. It's a healthy.
Ironically.
Ironically.
And of course, Keir Starmer is in favour of it.
Yeah, of course he is, because basically that's the death party. Everything that Keir Starmer supports is death. It's they support COVID vaccines. They support climate change. They support.
I don't remember death being on their manifesto. That's another sneaky thing that's come afterwards.
They're like the pro-abortion party.
You're supposed to say vaccines save lives whenever he talks.
Oh yeah, that's what you're supposed
Thank
to
you
say.
very much. Right.
Vaccines save lives, Lewis.
That's what
we all took three or four here.
We did not.
We
No,
did.
Anyway, that's not what this story's about.
I didn't take any,
Nick,
obviously.
I know you're not in favour of this bill.
I'm very against it, and I think this is incredibly foolish and short-sighted from the Express. They're boasting about campaigning for it, which is obscene, and they will probably come to regret, because it's going to be horrible. Look at Canada. I've said it before. An autistic man in his 30s, bullied, he wants to be euthanized. A woman who had fibromyalgia, actually she was just poor. She said she had fibromyalgia. They killed her. Why wouldn't that happen here? Oh, we have safeguards. Do you really, in this totally secular, materialist culture that's totally utilitarian, the people that brought you the COVID response now bring you death, and you trust it? Absurd. Look at Matthew Paris in The Times. Your time is up will never be an order, but yes, the objectors are right. It may one day be the kind of unspoken hint that everyone understands, and that's a good thing. That's what's coming.
Don't we have a friend? My friend Nabi, she comes from Japan, and she says this is what they go up to people and say, you should...
I know Nabi.
Yeah, you know Nabi, she's lovely. And she says, you know, that in Japan, when they're not happy with you, they say maybe now's the time to commit suicide.
Lewis, you are one of the arguments in favour of it, of course. But this Express headline, it's really, it's claiming that it's going to be compassionate, isn't it? That's what the argument is for this. And your arguments are kind of at the other end of the spectrum.
Because to me, and maybe I'm wrong about this.
Well, he knows I'm very against it, so Lewis said he was going to argue in favour.
I know, I can't, though. I think it's really bad. We don't want our government... I don't trust our government to do away with people. Do you?
Which is a really...
No, I don't. It's very difficult. I mean, to argue for it, of course, it's all this compassionate stuff. What's her name? Ledbetter, the MP that brought this bill, Kim Ledbetter.
Yeah.
She's talking about being really proud of a historic step towards greater choice and protection.
Yeah.
And you can't argue. I mean, it is another choice, isn't it? And it's protection from a horrible death, but it's... Look, I'm trying to straw man.
It's not protection from the state, but notice when the people say... Remember what people who are against the death penalty, they always said, well, I don't think the state should have the power to kill someone. Well, now you've given them that, so you've taken away that pillar of your argument. But notice in our anarcho-tyranny society, it's the innocent that will die, but we won't be able to kill the guilty because we don't have the death penalty. So I'm the opposite. I want the death penalty, like the majority of Brits, for child murder, terrorist murder and serial murder. That is the majority. YouGov polled that. They want the death penalty. We're not allowed that. We can only have the death for innocent people. That's the society we're in now.
I want the death penalty if I'm in control of it. But if...
That's the worst idea I've
I know
ever heard.
exactly how you feel, Lewis. Can we have a look at the Times, please, Nick?
Times has MPs back-assisted dying, and it's the angle that you were just mentioning there, Kim Ledbetter, Labour MP. She's really proud and really pleased with this, which is... Obviously, many opinions are available. To me, disturbing. But she's proud she's managed to start the process towards making this legal. And it's true, many people are in favour of it, if we're being objective. I question whether they are making an emotional argument and they've thought it through. I understand it's very traumatic when people are dying and you think you want to end their suffering. I do understand that. I'm not a monster. I'm just talking about the flip side of it. And it's interesting, as you say, Starmer backed it, as it says here. Sunak backed it. Corbyn was against it. So I now stand with Jeremy Corbyn. That is, you get the date and time because that's the only time you're going to hear me saying that on this show. And there's another story here about the Notre Dame, however you say it, cathedral being restored, which is great because we need beauty. You see, we're in this utilitarian society, but humans need beauty to prosper. And so this is a great thing. And they've got rid of all the soot and they've restored it. And we don't have this kind of thing anymore. We don't build these things because we've lost our sense of aspiration, our sense of beauty, and our connection with God. We need this kind of thing back.
It's very beautiful, isn't it? I went into St Paul's Cathedral for the first time in the last couple of... I went looking for God. I didn't find him, but I did get some interior...
Because it's a big building.
...design techniques. Yeah, it's very moving. Have you been?
No, there was a price tag on it.
Lewis Schaefer, it's donations. Anyway, I think this looks fantastic.
I think it looks a bit, you know, it's tragedy that it caught on fire, and they've redone it in the same way. So you got to give them. It's not better than it was before. Old is always better. I'm 67. Yeah.
OK, speaking of old, Alex James, I didn't want to be the fat one in Blur. He wasn't, was he?
No. But he got very into cheese in later life, so maybe that's what he's alluding to.
He has a chiseled jaw even now.
Is he fat now? I don't know if he's fat. I wasn't a big Blur fan. I was more on the other side, the other band. Oasis. Actually, I didn't care.
Yeah, you couldn't remember their names. So the other band. There are 2 available bands. You like the other one?
I'm way into Oasis now.
Oh, yeah.
I'm way into...
You grew up on banjo music and bluegrass in the woods. Yeah, that's how old you are.
No, we didn't.
No buildings.
They didn't even have that. We basically had a rock. Here's the point. The point is the worst thing you can do as a rock star is to be fat. And that's what he's saying. He didn't want to be the fat.
The worst thing any rock star's ever done.
Yeah, you can't.
Gary Glitters.
Yeah.
Overweight.
Overweight. People still listen to the music. At least he's not
Too
fat.
many carbs.
And because fat is horrible. I'm somebody who's I lost 22 or 3 kilograms, like 50 pounds. Yeah, don't smile at me.
I think that's fantastic.
I look
well done.
amazing.
I take that back about Gary Glitter. I'm not sure he was overweight. Elvis, towards the end, was a touch overweight.
Yes, and no one liked him at that time. I grew up
People loved him. He was the king of rock and roll.
He was fat. He was the most beautiful man in the entire world.
That changed really quickly.
What?
You changed your mind.
I think it was a flashback.
No, he was beautiful, and then he became fat. And then he became fat.
OK. Anything else? Shall we move on to the eye weekend, Lewis?
Yes, this is more about assisted dying, but they have an interesting... I don't know whether we're going to have time for this, but this woman, Haig, whatever her name is...
I think we're going to look at that in the next section, are we? Or are we going to...
We'll look at that in the next section. But the truth is, I
thought you had something exciting to say about Russian hacking software.
Do you know something? They're not our friends. That doesn't mean we should be bombing them.
OK, fair enough. Nick, anything on the eye?
Not really. I mean, you know, it's assisted dying again. It's the Russian hacking thing, which we all hoped Lewis had something on, but he really didn't. And then it's Hey, which we're doing in the next section. So
OK, all right, then. In that case, let's go to the Daily Telegraph, please.
Telegraph has Zelensky, I'll give up territory for peace. And Zelensky's tone has changed. He's gone from war, total death to whatever you say, Donald, basically. And now he wants this NATO umbrella. It won't be joining NATO, but they'll help them out with this transitional period, and they'll later talk about getting back the given up land diplomatically is the plan. And Trump, there's this story about they won't be allowed to join NATO for 20 years, which we've heard about already. And apparently Trump will just flood Ukraine, like pump Ukraine with weapons, give them loads of weapons. I didn't know he was going to do that. He's going to end the war by giving them loads of weapons. That's what I've heard. I also heard Sebastian Gorka say something like that. So that's Zelensky. There's another bit on assisted dying from Tim Stanley, which is pretty interesting. He's quite against. He says he compares it to the Third Reich at one point, and he just says this is a sort of moral Rubicon, I'm paraphrasing, that we've crossed because we've just suddenly, casually given the state the ability to kill people, which we've never had before. It's a huge change. I don't think people realise how big this is. Maybe.
It doesn't say it here, but there was a headline of his I saw earlier that said something like Britain is a different country today than it was yesterday, or something like that. He thinks it's really monumental.
It is that monumental.
I think I haven't really thought about it until today. I've not been thinking about it. It's a very, very bad thing. If people want to not be living, they could close their eyes and they...
Well, we had trouble with you in this comment before, Lewis, because that's not actually true.
Have complaints been made about it?
Yes, it is mainly people tweeting me about your behaviour.
They just tweeted you because they like you?
No, it's definitely because they don't like you.
Can I just say for balance that 60% of Reform MPs voted for the assisted dying bill? So it left me with a quandary because I voted for it. People said I was attacking Reform. 3 of their 5 MPs voted for it, which I was stunned by. And I don't know where to go anymore.
I feel like this all the time because I thought I stood with most people. No, we'll never go for it, and I'm in the minority. It turns out.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. OK, coming up, that's all the front pages dealt with. Still to come, find out what's the next reason to think twice about not watching the BBC as much, who's Kemi had a ruck with about arts funding, and what was so popular that Labour decided to scrap it. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
Dubes & Co. Weekdays from 6 p.m.
This is a topic very close to my heart. I have become fully convinced that social media, smartphones are one of the primary causes of mental health problems in children and many other serious problems beside. Lots of governments are starting to talk about this, but the Australians are well ahead in their use of legislation. What do you think about this issue?
Well, I think you're right. I mean, I've got 3 young children and I'm really concerned about... I mean, they're too young to be on social media, but I'm really concerned about what lies ahead for them. I'm not sure I support what Australia's doing, not because I don't think it's a good idea to ensure that age verification is right. I'm just not sure that the age 16 is appropriate. But that's progress. If we effectively, as I do, accept the point that we need some sort of control, then we can move to a proper debate about whether that's 16, 14, 13, whatever it may be. And, of course, there are age restrictions on things like Facebook. I think, from memory, it is 13.
Yes, but it's a tick box.
But it's a tick box, so all you can do is you can just knock. If you're 11 years old, you can just predate your date of birth by 2 years, and you can get on. I think what Australia is proposing is interesting because it will stop young people, maybe without their parents' knowledge, short-circuiting the system because they're going to be asking for proper age verification and ID. That's definitely something we should do in the UK because it's enforced in the existing law. Query, is 16 the right age, Miriam?
I completely agree with it. It's something I actually said should have been done before. And I think what is good about it is that for a long time, a lot of governments have been saying that the actual social media companies should take more responsibility, but they're not going to because it hurts their bottom line. The most voracious users are younger users. So they will pledge that, oh, I'll put the tick box in, but the kid is the one who's going to actually tick the box. So doing something like this is saying that, OK, we will put in legislation that damages your bottom line, and I think it will force the hand because they've said it's only 12 months and they will reevaluate it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Weekdays on GB News. Wake up to breakfast every day from 6 a.m. Followed by Britain's newsroom at 9:30. At noon, it's Good Afternoon Britain. Followed by Martin Daubney from 3 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. You've been leaving us all your lovely feedback in the break, and I'm looking at your say. Somebody here says, why, oh, why won't someone tell us the price of the newspapers? That's Stuart Barrett. So, bit of an idea there for something you could maybe do.
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant idea. Is that what Stuart said?
That is what Stuart Barrett thinks about Headliners. OK, I'm still here with Lewis Schaefer and Nick Dixon. I'm Cressida Wetton. Beginning with Saturday's Guardian. It's not Black Friday at the BBC, is it, Lewis?
Well, it is Black Friday. It's interesting you'd say that because they're asking for more money. Usually, is that what you're saying? They usually ask for cuts.
Yeah, there's no sale on. They're not saying...
It was a clever joke about it not being a discount. You just ruined it.
Yeah, because I was thinking black, meaning things are, like, murky and depressed. They are depressed.
That's not what it means.
I know it's not.
It's a good point, though. I've always thought Black Friday. It doesn't sound very uplifting. Anyway...
Am I supposed to read the script beforehand?
Yes, you're quite right. You should read
BBC
it.
licence fee to rise by £5 to £174.50 from April, in line with inflation, which is not in line with inflation because it hasn't risen in many. It used to be £159, and so it hasn't risen that much over the last couple of years because it went up 9% last. I think it hasn't gone up.
I'm just laughing because you're happiest reading out the price of things.
I am. Because I'm constantly being told, get the numbers down, be specific. No one cares about any of this stuff anyway.
They want to see your raw charisma.
They just want to know. They just want...
Eddie.
It's food. He puts it on.
But we don't want to hear about Lewis's raw meat. We want to hear about what initially sounds like, oh my God, the BBC have put their prices up. But as you quite rightly said, it's not really that much.
It isn't that much, but it's 174 pounds. That's too much money to be forced to pay. It's a tax. Of course, this is in The Guardian, and they're pleased. But because there's been 30% inflation, it should have been even higher. But at least it's going up. And the fact that Labour says, they said this, and the BBC said, we're committed to delivering trusted news, the best homegrown storytelling, and those special moments to bring us together. It's all a lie. It's a lie. I don't want to say don't pay the thing, but it's a tax. What do you say?
Yeah, don't say that.
Sorry.
But just for balance, it's not a lie. It is, though, isn't it? That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem. It's like the assisted. How can I disagree with you?
That's what's wrong with the television in this country. Why do we have
Why
to
are we
be
on the
balanced?
television, Lewis?
Yes.
Get off the television.
Well, because you've got other job opportunities.
But you haven't.
And so does
That's
President.
the tragedy.
No, I can't do anything besides.
You're here. Yeah. The point is, it's...
That's why, can I just say, that's why it hurts so much when somebody says, you know, Lewis, would you be more prepared? This is all I've got. This is
all you've got.
This is all you've got, and this is your attitude. Nick, you would say it.
Well, I just want to say that the BBC... It's, to be honest, I sound like Lewis. It's the BBC. It's all a lie. It's a centralisation. Basically, I feel that the BBC it's on the way out gradually. We all know this. I'm not trying to be mean. We all know this. The BBC know it in their hearts.
Yes.
And the moment that the old media, as I now call it, ended was the Joe Rogan-Trump interview. That was the death of old media.
Yeah.
And the funeral was the election, because we saw the mainstream channels, they couldn't keep up with the pace of the states coming in. They kept having meltdowns, people like Emily Maitlis, because it was going the wrong way for them. No, it's old media's dead. It's all about new media. GB is sort of part of they're a curveball, because they're kind of in the new media, even though we're on telly.
Well, if things keep going with the advertising, we'll be a new media.
I don't know what that means, but I denounce whatever he just said.
Moving on to The Independent. Starmer's lost his first team member, Nick. Someone's already gone.
Yeah, Louise Hay resigns as Transport Secretary over stolen phone fraud offence. Now, this all goes back to over 10 years ago, 2013. It was a strange incident. In her 20s, she was mugged. And it was a night out, she's mugged. She reports to the police that she's lost her phone. She then finds her phone and presumably doesn't know what to do. I'm adding that part. She said she found the phone later. It was a work phone. It was then activated, turned on, and that alerted police that, oh, you've still got the old phone. We've given you a new work phone. You've still got the old one that you reported missing. So technically, this was deemed to be sort of fraud. But she claimed she had bad advice. She pleaded guilty. She didn't ever get to sort of explain it properly. And so she felt she was sort of hard done by, but technically, you know, it was it was fraud of some sort. So Starmer allegedly knew this. This is the controversy, or an element of the controversy, in 2020, and yet he still gave her the office. So people are saying, well, that's crazy and short-sighted, especially given Labour's very sort of by the book, follow the rules.
Well, this is it, isn't it? His lovely quote, you can't be a rule maker and a rule breaker, doesn't look very good here. Or are we being a bit harsh? Because it doesn't seem like a major offence, does it, Lewis?
Well, it's you know, I think, well, what they say, you know, it's, yeah, you shouldn't be a rule breaker, rule maker, but there's another saying, it takes one to know one. So, you know, she's a criminal.
She's not a criminal. She's somebody who has had a conviction.
Well, it was Spence. It was a Spence conviction.
Yes, but she went into court and said, I did that, or she did, you know what I mean? She was told to do it, but she went in. I mean, what's shocking about this story is, number one, the police actually could find her phone. What happened to my phone? When I lost my phone, my Apple IV, I think it was a 4 something, back in 19...
Yeah, I got mugged for my phone.
Yeah,
the police didn't even do anything.
Didn't do anything.
Not even an email.
Well, you do raise a good point. It doesn't seem like a major issue, does it, in today's criminal world? This seems pretty minor to me.
It is minor. It's not a major thing. It's not like what these people are doing, which is stealing what Labour normally does, which is steal billions of dollars and give it to people who don't deserve it. But so I don't feel bad for her. She was kicked out because of what she said about P&O. Remember what she said about P&O?
Well, yeah, that was controversial. She got them in some trouble. They're trying to do the P&O deal, and she had heavily criticised them. So in that way, you might say it's a relief for Starmer. He sent the shortest letter in reply to it ever seen. Some people were saying he probably ChatGPT'd it. He was like, thanks for your service, bye. But the only problem for Starmer is it's 4 months in, now he's lost someone fairly major, so this is an issue for her.
Definitely.
And yeah, okay. Sorry.
OK, Daily Mail now, and it turns out one of my panel is statistically 3 times more likely to be stopped by the police, Lewis.
I know what you're talking about, and that's wrong, because I am rarely stopped by the police, and perhaps they should. Foreign nationals are up to 3 times more likely to be arrested, and I'm a foreign national in parts of the UK. So basically, they don't have all of the data to say that all those immigrants that are flooding into the country are like way more. They're like, there's so few of them, and there's just a huge percentage of them, 43% of them in one part of the country. I'll tell you what part that is.
41.5% in Cambridgeshire.
In Cambridgeshire and they're just 15% of the population. So there's a lot of, but then again, it takes a while to get used to this country. You don't know you're making a mistake. They never tell you. Like, we've been sitting here, there's so much stuff we can't discuss, and we're supposed to know we can't discuss it.
Certainly, I've not understood anything you've said yet on this
yes,
story.
But you do. No, I don't know you're denying.
Well, I think what you're gently saying is that possibly having large numbers of people from other cultures might lead to some tensions.
I don't want to defend them.
Well, the numbers say, 41.5% were not UK citizens in Cambridgeshire of the arrest, despite them comprising just 15% of the local population. Now, The Guardian or so on would probably say, yes, because they're being unfairly targeted, but, it's up to you to decide. But, yeah, they came about this because, obviously, the ONS has adjusted these statistics to find that we didn't just have a crazy level of immigration, we had a super insane, crazy mental level. And so, because they've already done models, they're able to adjust it and then figure out how many people probably have committed crimes. But this is what you have. This is what we've decided to do to the country. And even Keir Starmer, I know you will have covered this, is now saying it was deliberate. The country was deliberately flooded with immigration under the Tories. And this has been a far-right conspiracy from 10 seconds ago. So it's this temporal gaslighting, I call it. That's my term. You know, when we weren't allowed to say the Wuhan lab was where the obvious Wuhan virus came from. It wasn't from the virus lab, it was from the wet bat. But then we were suddenly allowed to say it when Jon Stewart said it. This is very similar. We weren't allowed to say that immigration has got out of control and seems to be deliberate until the Prime Minister's saying it. And then all the journalists are suddenly going, why is it so out of control, sir? It's terrible. We're addicted to immigration. So suddenly we're allowed to say it. And this is where we are. The regime has panicked, I think, and realised we've got to do something. And so now they've accepted, if you can't beat them, join them. We've got to address immigration.
OK, we've just got a short bit of time to cover this one. Controversial arts funding in the Times now, Nick.
So kneecap, Badenoch funding block on Belfast rap band was unlawful. That sounded almost like rap, that whole sentence. It was bizarre. But anyway, this is Kneecap, who are just a bunch of lovely lads from Belfast. They have to be called Kneecap. They're a hip-hop trio. And they got £14,250 in a legal settlement, which they're going to give to 2 youth organisations, one nationalist and one unionist, because they want to bring the people together, Lewis. And,
that is very weird.
Well, hey, they're great guys. But the point is, Kemi Badenoch said, look, they shouldn't get this money. This is mad because they're against the United Kingdom. They don't think it should exist and stuff. And then they lost in court, the government, so they ended up getting the money again. So that's where we are, and that's basically the story. I don't know what else to say about it.
Well, and it's the new government that have reneged on this and given them the money, isn't it?
And they've called them out for that. They say that, this is quite funny. Badenoch spokesman says, yet another cowardly decision after giving away the Chagos Islands. Now you give away 14 grand to Kneecap, and they're the same.
That was the only part of the article that I sort of understood. Is like
I believe you.
What Kemi is sorry. What Kemi the people don't like when you talk to me that way.
They don't know that it's fun though. That we're mates.
What's your comment?
This case is not about whether the band promotes violence or hate in the UK. They don't care if they're promoting violence in the UK. This is what Kemi, the person who's speaking for Kemi, said. It said it's about whether the government ministers have the ability to stop taxpayers' money from subsidising people who neither need it nor deserve it. So this isn't an arts issue or a violence issue. It's just like saying, boy, Labour's just giving out so much money. Who are these people?
Who are these people? OK, still to come. What's the latest culture wars lingo that you might need to know? And are the English and the Welsh at each other's throats? We'll see you shortly. This is Headliners only on GB News.
Evening. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. The weekend is upon us and it's going to be much milder than it has been for the past few days. Not a lot of sunshine around. Most places, certainly tomorrow, will be dry. Low pressure sitting to the west, high pressure sitting to the east. That means our winds are coming up from the south. There is this weather front draped across the country at the moment, fizzling out as it crosses eastern England, so just a few spots of rain here, but it's made for a very wet day across parts of Scotland. That rain heading its way up across the Northern Isles. Further showers following on here, but most other places having a dry night. A lot of cloud around. That will keep those temperatures up. Still pretty chilly out there this evening across the east, but by morning, 6-7 degrees Celsius, and in the west, well, we start the weekend in double digits, and for most of us, a very mild Saturday. For most of us, though, it's also going to be a fairly cloudy Saturday. A lot of that cloud sitting over the hills as well. So some poor visibility on some of the higher routes. The hills, though, acting as a bit of a barrier. So with some shelter, parts of northwest England and northeast Wales may well see some good breaks in the cloud. And the same goes for northeastern parts of Scotland here. I suspect we should see some good spells of sunshine as we go through the day. But for most, it will be predominantly cloudy. That cloud, as I said, tending to sit around, particularly over the hills. But it may break up a little as we go through the day, so you may see skies tending to brighten. But a showery rain will drift its way across northern Scotland. The odd shower elsewhere in the west, but many places just having a dry day. And it will be mild, double digits certainly, and many places getting into the teens. Where we see a bit of sunshine, those temperatures could be a little higher. Still quite breezy, particularly in western areas. Getting very windy on Saturday night across the northwest of Scotland. Still gusty here on Sunday. A bit more rain on Sunday. This line will work its way from west to east, and then another band of showery rain will come in from the west as well. So, yeah, it will be a bit wetter on Sunday, but still it won't rain all day. There'll be some brighter spells coming through. And, yes, the wind's still coming up from the south, so Sunday also looking very mild.
Go to gbnews.com/shop now and take advantage of our biggest ever Black Friday sale with 25% off all items across our store and free shipping on orders worth £60 or more. There's never been a better time to grab something for the GB News fan in your life. From our signature clothing to drinkware, gifts, accessories and much, much more, you'll find the perfect present this festive season. Use the code BLACKFRIDAY25 on checkout at gbnews.com/shop for our best ever Black Friday deals.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I was just going to have another quick look at Saturday's front pages for anyone that missed the beginning of the show. The Telegraph has Zelensky, I'll give up territory for peace. The Mirror, MPs back assisted dying. The Mail, MPs vote for a leap into the unknown. The Express, now future generations will be spared ordeals we suffer. And the Eye Weekend has assisted dying set to become legal within 3 years. Finally, the Daily Star, the Gross Grocer. Those were the front pages for tomorrow. So we've just had some more comments from you in the break. This is on GB News Your Say. Eileen Dowdswell says she's so pleased that Nick Dixon is back on Headliners. Isn't that nice? I think you had one as well, Nick, that you were going to
Well, I just had
out.
Ems on Twitter saying I really believe Nick is one of the most important and well-researched journalists we currently have in the UK. I'm not even a journalist. I have no idea why he doesn't have his own weekly show. You can be funny and highly intelligent at the same time. That's a real comment. I can't believe I was allowed to read that out. My whole show would just be me reading stuff like that out.
You're just a chilled-out entertainer, and that's what the people want.
Well, can I read also what
You
they
should have a
said
nice
about
one about
me?
you, Lewis.
It said Louis Schaefer is surprisingly good-looking for a man who's 67 years old. I would love to meet him, and I wonder how I could get his new calendar. There's no new calendar.
That's not real. You're reading a blank
The pair
screen.
of you are a pair of sock puppet journalists.
Mine was
Is that
real,
a
at
thing?
least.
OK,
No,
we're
I've got nice people like me. You can tweet me. You can
That's
go to
the
my...
kind of one he gets.
They know
That
they
one
can
was
tweet you.
fake.
That Louis Schaefer.
We're going to have to read some more stories, guys. We're opening this section with Saturday's Guardian, and we're about to learn a nice new hip and cool term, aren't we, Nick?
Yeah.
Yes, so this is a significant drop in racially minoritized characters in children's books, report says. So that's the new term, of course.
Yeah, tell us what it means.
Racially minoritized. Well, Well, Cress, I'm surprised you don't know, but it's a term used to refer to individuals who have been actively minoritized through social processes of power and domination rather than just existing in distinct statistical minorities. Maybe like white people. I mean, they've been actively minoritized through social processes of power and domination, like wokeness, hating white people, maybe.
I feel like I'm being minoritized because I don't understand.
I don't understand it.
True. Yeah, we're all being minoritized here because we're normal people. But, ish, compared to whoever wrote this. This comes from the CLPE, which is the Centre for Looking at Pointless Ephemera. I made that up. It's a Centre for Literacy and Primary Education. I did a little joke, guys. And they've gone through children... Imagine that being this sad. They've gone through children's books just looking at the percentages of racially minoritized people, which is
what does that mean?
No, it doesn't mean anything. It's utterly pathetic. They should just watch some TV adverts and they'll be fine because it's just literally all racially minoritized people.
But they're saying it's a bad thing. Because
it's gone down.
Because the number of racial, whatever this means, I think they mean like looking at black people in books with pictures. They're gonna make sure there's a picture of it to make sure they know.
That sounds ridiculous, but it is what they mean.
That is what they mean. Has gone down.
It says it's more common in children's books, but I think what you're saying is perhaps if we're reading a book without any pictures, we might not know the genetic heritage of a character.
Yeah,
is that what you're...
I wasn't even thinking that. I'm just thinking they think it's bad. I think it's good that we, this is... Is it good? Maybe it's not
it's good because it's ending. All the woke stuff is just fading away. It's the MAGA era. We've got Miss Universe is just a blonde woman again. All the woke stuff's going. But this sentence really bothered me. The report's conclusion calls for inclusion to be made integral to each stage of the publishing process. Why? Why, though? Why not just have individuals write books that they want to express themselves and to write something good and come up with a good story or a good aesthetic vision? Why do we have to have inclusion?
Madness. Absolute madness.
Because how many jobs are they going to have to add? It's like added jobs for people who go to university and don't, can't do anything else.
We're in the Telegraph now. Yvette Cooper recently told police to exercise common sense regarding non-crime hate incidents. Lewis, does she need to single out the English and the Welsh now too, or would that be a non-crime hate incident?
Well, I think it was thrown in for clicks, even though this is only a newspaper. It's not really a story. Well, Welsh English racism claims investigated as non-crime hate incidents. It's the same story we had the other day about non-crime hate incidents, which is just like people complaining about their neighbor saying something bad, like put your underwear back in the house. And it says that that's happening too. And I agree, because the Welsh are one of the first peoples who were kicked off the country. Wherever they were Celts or something, they were living, they were Brit. What are you laughing about?
People at home playing the Lewis Schaefer drinking game are obviously going to...
The Picts and the Jutes and stuff.
And the Jutes and the Angles and the Saxons. Somebody needs to... Not those people, because the Angles and the Saxons were the invaders, but the people that they pushed off the land were the Celts, and they pushed them off into this horrible bit of Celtic...
So are you saying that you think it's legitimate that there's still a lot of tension between the Welsh and the English? Because I think this is a story about people being petty and seeing an opportunity. And divorce never gets mentioned in these stories, but I bet a lot of non-crime hate incidents are happening between soon-to-be divorced people.
Probably, because it's touchy. So when somebody says to me something about that, it's not as touchy as it was, but because I've been divorced for 20-something years. So I don't think that's a non-story.
How is that about Welsh?
I don't know. How is that about...
Because I'm saying, some of these examples are so petty. Somebody claimed he was refused service in a Welsh pub because he was English. Bar staff later told the police the customer had been turned away because he was too drunk. I mean, that could arguably be the same thing.
A couple of things. Lewis has become the weirdest voice for Welsh nationalism on British TV. I never saw that coming, but it's great.
Well, basically, Wales is the Palestine of, or the Gaza Strip.
I've always said that.
Britain.
And we're all pro-Palestine.
Interesting.
Mainly to annoy Josh. But it's fine. But what about this about being called a sheep, something I can't say? Cumbrians get called that as well. These are not hate... I like what Lord Sumption said. He called this a kind of intermediate framework of grudge-bearing, which is just intolerable. Isn't that what it is? It's not real crimes. It's just weaponized grudges.
And now we need the government, the actual police department, to come in and write down a couple of guys visiting. These are like lonely people in Wales, everywhere. We're all lonely. We just want someone to listen to us and say, oh, my God, he hung up his soiled underwear, for months now.
That was a real example. Yeah.
That was one of the examples.
One of them is someone being told to go back home. Try doing a comedy gig. I got that shouted at me at Manchester Comedy Store. Go back home to Cumbria. I'm like, it's down the road. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But if I just do one comedy gig, you'll get about 20 hate crimes just in the audience, especially you.
Yeah.
Every heckle is a hate crime now.
People don't even. They don't even
About
think it's
50, I'll say 48% of the tweets are hate crimes. OK, Daily Mail next. And standards might be slipping at Cambridge University, but not on the stairs, Nick.
Yes, Cambridge University students are given lessons on how to walk downstairs for fear they will trip and fall if they are staring at their phones. And this is an actual poster that says, heads up, phones down, don't be the next accident.
We've got the poster here.
Oh, good. It even refers to near misses. And for our radio listeners, this is a dumb poster that says, pay attention when using the stairs. I love that. It's like, that's a great... When you speak, utilise your mouth. I mean, it's just like... I hate this stuff. You see it on the stairs in the station and the tubes. It's like there's little messages on each step telling you what to do. Like, who's looking at these messages? And we all know it's the nanny state. It's one comment I liked, it's not in this version, sorry, it's in a different version, called it woke gibberish. I'm like... It's not really woke. I mean, you know, the Liberal managerial state is woke, but this kind of thing is more safetyism. I give you it's health and safety gone mad.
Yeah, gone
but
mad.
strictly, it's not woke.
It's not woke. What it is, and it's not saying those people are stupid. It's basically saying, we told you to watch where you go. Yes, you tripped down the flight of stairs. We're not giving you any money. You just, you know, shut up and take it. So
Of course, the American angle, yes.
Yes, because of insurance companies. We have to blame the insurance companies.
I thought it was just passive-aggressive Englishness. You know, we're not going to say it, but really inside we're very angry that you keep bumping into us.
This Cambridge University is horrible, yes.
Do you mean our greatest university? Except for Oxford.
Except for Oxford.
Isn't it incredible, though, that the engineering department, our finest university, or one of them, has come up with this? Isn't that an incredible sign of decline?
I'm mostly upset by the standard of
That's
the
the first
graphics,
time you've been speechless
actually.
ever. I didn't anticipate it being that.
OK, news of a horrific industry event in the Telegraph now, Lewis. Is this the one you were trying to get a ticket for?
Yeah, it sounds amazing. No, I was not. Anyway, attendees horrified after Construction Awards hire models in skin-tight high-vis costumes.
I think we've got some pictures of this as
Do
well.
we have some pictures? Yeah, they
There
look
you
great.
go.
They look great.
It's not very practical for on-site, is it?
No, it isn't, because then you
Cold
maybe...
legs.
Yeah, not just cold. You can get maybe you know, if you're sewing
that
something.
mime is very...
I don't know what the stuff comes out, the metal fragments that come out of a chainsaw.
Swarf?
Yeah, I wasn't listening.
No, you weren't listening either.
Because someone was saying, Lewis, why didn't you read out the price of the Express? They're actually asking you. Anyway, it's too late for that.
Because I don't have it on me, I'm sorry, because I don't buy these newspapers. I don't even know why, I barely read them. And,
sorry to take you off the story.
Well, at least with this one, you looked at the pictures. Come on, what's happening?
I did look at the pictures. The pictures are a couple of women are upset. A couple of women are upset, and they posted it on Reddit. This is one of those things. It's an internet story. It's not a real story. It is a real story.
It is a real story.
This is more real.
A story of our time. Times are changing. On the one hand, we're trying to move forward and supposedly be feminist. On the other hand, it's a very over-sexualised society. And frankly, these women are quite well-dressed compared to what you see in the street sometimes.
We're in the new era of MAGA. We've got... This is all part of it. All the wokeness is going. We've got a diversity campaign here. Then later it says another diversity campaign. Why do we need diversity campaigners? What are they? And why are there so many of them?
The truth is, women do not want to be construction workers. They're not construction workers. There's so few of them.
Those two definitely aren't.
Yeah, they're not. So what are they doing complaining? And you know what it is? This is a call for no women on the workplace at all. That's what we should be fighting.
This is a call from you, you mean, or from...
From me. I'm going to make this call.
Nothing... escalated that, haven't you?
I'm sorry, except for you, Cressida, because you're good.
Except for me, brilliant.
You're good.
Still to come, buyer's remorse
Not to me.
on a luxury product, the world's most expensive banana, and find out what went wrong at the Met Office. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Joined by international life coach Cheryl Findlay, who has joined forces with a Liverpool business owner, Kate Hill, of sustainable sportswear brand Lola Star, to empower women and inspire women across the nation. And to celebrate this partnership with the new Lola Star collection, the two will be hosting an exclusive event next Saturday.
The sportswear brand was launched after, well, your story. You lost how much weight?
So 16 stone, which is over 220 pounds, which I know is quite significant. But during that kind of decade-long journey, I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about what it takes to be successful, to be happy, to be well, and to just live an incredible life every day.
Are you giving them goals to work towards or helping them structure their life?
Yeah, so I don't give out goals, absolutely not. It's all about whatever an individual wants. So what we do to begin with is we understand, like, where are you now? Where are you thriving? Where do you feel really happy and excited in your life? And what's lacking? Like, where would you like to feel better? Where would you like to improve? And then we take it from there.
I'd love to take that on board. I'd love to be my true self and fulfil my potential. So have you got any practical tips on how to do that?
Yeah, so we start with clarity, right? Like, you need to know, it's such a busy, fast-paced world we live in. There's so much sensory overload. You know, it'd be so easy to be distracted. So we need to kind of quiet all that noise down and start with, where do I want to focus? Pick 2 or 3 things. Where do I want to focus? And then we define the goal. What would I like that area of my life to look, not just look like, but feel like? And then we take it from there. So that's where you would start. I actually had a cancer diagnosis in 2019.
Oh.
And I just decided if I was going to be lucky enough to be on the other side of it, I wasn't going to play small anymore.
GB News, the people's...
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player app. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking... This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. We've been looking at your say again in the break. Drew Emerson says Schaefer is subtly brilliant. Should be given more credit.
He's brilliant, but is he subtle?
About that. And Ralph Mouth, is that a real name? He says Headliners is becoming the best show on GB News. Thank you, Ralph. As you don't have any far-left guests with extremist woke views. They wouldn't last long, would they? They'd be very welcome if they wanted to.
We tried a few.
They wouldn't.
They didn't like it.
Probably enjoy it.
They don't have a sense of humour, maybe.
Well, fair enough. Starting with The Guardian and some post-purchase dissonance at Tesla, Lewis.
Tesla owners turn against Musk. I'm embarrassed driving this car around, quote, unquote. This is in The Guardian. Of course they're going to say this because they're filled with bitterness because they've lost. They don't even... I think they're beginning to realise their time is gone. Musk has sided with Trump, and he's sided with free speech. And the single greatest thing in this world is X.
The single greatest thing.
The subtlety of Lewis Schaefer there.
Was that too extreme? So of course, I mean, this is one of those Saturday articles, not as boring as Sunday articles, but it's a Saturday. This is why Friday is the worst.
It's boring. This show
is really boring.
Lewis, this show is really unimportant.
Yeah, it's really.
Remember you were saying?
Spirit.
No, it's something you were saying a few weeks ago.
Because
it was
it's
hilarious.
true.
Insane. It
Well, because
sometimes he doesn't even believe in newspapers and journalism. It's very difficult. Nick, any thoughts?
Yeah, I've got loads of thoughts. You know me. This guy, whoever's selling these, who is it that's selling them? He hates them.
Who's selling Teslas?
No,
mainly
this guy,
Elon Musk.
Matt Hiller, a Hawaii-based aquarium worker. That's weird. Yeah. He sells these stickers that are anti-Musk, and he described him as a billionaire supervillain. It's like, no, he's the hero. He's Iron Man. It's the hero. He's the guy that believes in humanity and believes we can get to Mars. You have to be a total idiot. Dominic Cummings has talked a lot about this. This sort of mid-wit class. It's all like, oh, Elon Musk is good. He makes electric cars. And it's like, spaceship man bad. To go around saying that Elon Musk is stupid, as we see on these blue sky type people online, these kind of lefties. How dumb do you have to be to go, tell you what, he's dumb now, because he's sided with Trump. The guy that makes the spaceships and runs 4 massive companies in his sleep, that guy is stupid. That's their actual opinion. So this anti-Musk stuff. However, if you want to drive a car that represents your views, then fine. It's like Jaguar. That's why Jaguar destroyed their brand. It's like Jaguar represents a certain, I think, class, Britishness, you know, they've destroyed that now.
And now all the Tesla drivers can get a Jaguar. Everybody's happy.
Good point. Done.
But the truth is, this guy, whoever this guy is, I guarantee you he doesn't have enough money to buy a Tesla.
Well, it's easier to buy a sticker saying don't buy a Tesla than a Tesla, isn't it? OK, a story now
somebody who has a proper job is not making...
Women are talking, Lewis.
Sorry.
Sorry. A story now about money for old fruit in the Mirror, Nick.
Yeah, fruit seller who sold banana to artists fuming after it sold at auction for $4.8 million. There's a poor fruit vendor called Shah Alam, poor in every sense. He's like... he lives in a $500 a month basement apartment with 5 other men in Parkchester, the Bronx, where Lewis used to live. He lived with 6 other men, but that was a different setup.
Well, here's the artwork. Look at that.
You only objected to that, the location.
Cracking banana, by the way. That, for me, is exactly
for listeners, it's a banana.
Ripeness.
Yes, ripe banana taped to a wall, which costs $4.8 million. Now, the story gets very complex. The guy that bought it is called Justin's son, and he wants to help out this poor vendor by buying 100,000 bananas from his stand. No, it's not quite clear. People are saying how he's going to do that. But there's also a guy who did a crowdfunder, but his initials are JS, so I find that very... like the same initials as the guy that bought it, so is it like a prank? And he's raised a crowdfunder for this guy. But the point is, modern art is not about the banana, it's about having the idea, and of course it's about just nonsense and networking and sort of decadence, isn't it? So that's why.
Yeah, but 100,000... bananas is not that much money of bananas. It's only about 29,000 pounds or $35,000.
It's not bad if you're living in a basement with Lewis Schaefer and 5 other men.
The guy could have just... what kind of guy just says he's going to buy 100,000? Oh, he's the kind of guy who paid $5.2 million for a banana.
Yeah.
But the artist doesn't get the money either.
The guy doesn't hear about this. OK, news of a great work being misquoted now in The Telegraph. Lewis, is this like when the viewers misunderstand your genius?
You know something? The worse show I do, the more they think it's genius. This has been honestly one of the worst shows. But at least there's no super acrimony going on.
I've been good, but you've been one of the worst.
Well, there's 30 seconds
No,
left,
you've been good. You've been great. Cressida is always great. Anyway, not always, but most of the time. You're not quite... I mean, let's be honest.
I'll settle for some of the time if you just read the story.
It's the 1954 book that inspired the police to question Alison Pearson. This is a Saturday story, which should not have been put in the thing. It's this book. It was written in 1954, called what is it called? I forgot what it's called.
The Nature of Prejudice.
The Nature of Prejudice. I'd never heard of the book, but it basically says that a butterfly can change the nature of prejudice. That a butterfly can change the world, Cressida. It's a butterfly's flapping. It says a nasty, not so nice remark that maybe other people wouldn't feel nasty, but you know is nasty, can cause the quote-unquote...
So this is really the origins of the Be Kind movement, isn't it, Nick?
Yeah, it's this misguided idea that you can get rid of hatred with sort of social engineering and nudging people's behaviour. But as the person admits, rivalries and hatreds between groups are nothing new. What is new is the fact that technology has brought these groups too close together for comfort.
What a way to end an episode of Headlines. It's perfect. The show is nearly over. Yeah, that's our show. So let's take another quick look at Saturday's front pages. The Daily Telegraph has Zelensky, I'll give up territory for peace. The Daily Mirror has MPs back assisted dying. The Daily Mail has MPs vote for a leap into the unknown. And the Daily Express has now future generations will be spared ordeals we suffer. The iWeekend has assisted dying set to become legal within 3 years after historic vote. And finally, the Daily Star has the gross grocer, which is something about Greg Wallace. That's it for tonight's show. Thank you to my guests, Lewis and Nick. Steve N. Allen will be here tomorrow night at 11 p.m, joined by Nick and Leo Kearse. You're not around tomorrow, are you? But I think you're here on Sunday for Free Speech Nation. No?
Oh, yes, I am. I am.
Okay.
I am for that.
If you're
Thank
watching
you.
at 5 a.m, please stay tuned for breakfast.
I was thinking of Crystal Palace.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Evening. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. The weekend is upon us and it's going to be much milder than it has been for the past few days. Not a lot of sunshine around. Most places, certainly tomorrow, will be dry. Low pressure sitting to the west, high pressure sitting to the east. That means our winds are coming up from the south. There is this weather front draped across the country at the moment, fizzling out as it crosses eastern England, so just a few spots of rain here, but it's made for a very wet day across parts of Scotland. That rain heading its way up across the Northern Isles. Further showers following on here, but most other places having a dry night. A lot of cloud around. That will keep those temperatures up. Still pretty chilly out there this evening across the east, but by morning, 6-7 degrees Celsius, and in the west, well, we start the weekend in double digits, and for most of us, a very mild Saturday. For most of us, though, it's also going to be a fairly cloudy Saturday. A lot of that cloud sitting over the hills as well. So some poor visibility on some of the higher routes. The hills, though, acting as a bit of a barrier. So with some shelter, parts of northwest England and northeast Wales may well see some good breaks in the cloud. And the same goes for northeastern parts of Scotland here. I suspect we should see some good spells of sunshine as we go through the day. But for most, it will be predominantly cloudy. That cloud, as I said, tending to sit around, particularly over the hills. But it may break up a little as we go through the day, so you may see skies tending to brighten. But a showery rain will drift its way across northern Scotland. The odd shower elsewhere in the west, but many places just having a dry day. And it will be mild, double digits certainly, and many places getting into the teens. Where we see a bit of sunshine, those temperatures could be a little higher. Still quite breezy, particularly in western areas. Getting very windy on Saturday night across the northwest of Scotland. Still gusty here on Sunday. A bit more rain on Sunday. This line will work its way from west to east, and then another band of showery rain will come in from the west as well. So yeah, it will be a bit wetter on Sunday, but still it won't rain all day. There'll be some brighter spells coming through. And yes, the wind's still coming up from the south, so Sunday also looking very mild.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's our festive treat to you. Your chance to win an incredible £50,000 in tax-free cash. Our biggest ever Great British giveaway. What would you spend £50,000 on in the coming year? Spectacular holidays, a brand new car, home improvements, or maybe you'd just like to save it for a special occasion. For your chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Go to gbnews.com/shop now and take advantage of our biggest ever Black Friday sale with 25% off all items across our store and free shipping on orders worth £60 or more.